Can you comment about Russia's recent activity in the region, please?
Yeah, the Russians are coming. The Russians are coming used to be a movie. But to be honest, they surprised all intelligence services, the Israelis, the Americans, the Europeans, the Arabs. One day, a year and a half ago, they landed with no previous alert. First, they landed at the Tartus harbor in Syria to make sure that they have a leg in the Mediterranean. It's the only port that they have in the Mediterranean Sea. Then they built the Hamimim airport nearby, and they understood that there is a vacuum. The United States pulled out its troops and influence in the Middle East, and they understood it's about time for them to get back. So they got back. They decided to stabilize Bashar al-Assad as a president of Syria whatsoever. So they decided not to bring boots on the ground, but to use the boots on the ground from Iran that brought Hezbollah and established a new militia, a Shiite militia, like a foreign legion, with terrorists gathering from all over Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Syria, and other countries, that they have nothing to do in their life but fighting. They have no families, no roots. They are just fighting as professional fighters, professional terrorists, and like in the medievals, you know, that's their job. That's what they do. Horrible stories around it. If you hear about what happens in northeast Syria, close to the Iraqi border, with the Yazidis, with what we heard about Nigeria, that they took 300 Christian girls from a school, Boko Haram, and they forced them either to convert Islam, which was a good solution. I mean, they could get married by force, of course. And the others who refused to convert Islam became assets, were sold for nothing to be used as a tool. 300. In Syria, it's done by the Shiite militia and ISIS in thousands. In thousands. Horrible stories. So Iran brought the Hezbollah, the militia, and they're fighting on the ground. Russia is supplying the carpet bombings from the air. And we've met recently, 3 months ago, with the Russians' foreign committee in both houses. And they tell us loud and clear. We spoke about Iran as the enemy state, while they're talking about Iran, the ally. We mentioned Hezbollah as a terror organization. They speak about Hezbollah as a partner. As long as they have an interest to stabilize Bashar al-Assad, they're using all tools, including a new terminology. And they received recently from Bashar al-Assad, he didn't have any other choice, a piece of land from Syria. He leased it for them for 50 years. They didn't come for a tour. They didn't come for a visit. They came to stay in the Middle East for the coming 50 years, remained 49 years. So it means that the Russians, when they will stabilize Bashar al-Assad, if they will find another leader that can create a better consensus, they will replace Bashar al-Assad. But they are in the Middle East. They took an advantage of the fact that the United States pulled out its troops, and no doubt they are deep in Syria, in very strong relations with Iran, very strong relations with Iran, started to to sell Egypt some new weapons, Russian weapons, in addition to the American sophisticated weapon. And we believe it's just the beginning. Now, Russia is not an enemy state for Israel. But we have to be very careful. They brought just recently, a few months ago, they brought the carrier, the air carrier Kuznetsov. It's a broken and old one. It's nothing to compare with your carrier. But they brought it to the Middle East with the whole ships around, with sophisticated radars, and now they know, grosso modo, about every plane that takes off in Israel, all along the country. So it's a new situation. It bears some threats, but it bears some opportunities. If you ask me about the opportunities, I think that the United States may play a main role in the opportunities. Why? Because President Trump, according to what was published, has good relations with the administration in Russia, with Putin and his people. 100 years ago, there were two people, Sykes and Picot, a British and the French, who divided the whole Middle East into countries. If you look at the borders all along the Middle East, you can see that those borders are, if we see the map, you see the borders are straight. It has nothing to do with geography. It has to do with the lines of the globe. And here and there some chain of mountains or valleys. So Sykes-Picot did it 100 years ago. It worked to a certain extent. It's not a huge success. How do I know it? 6 countries crashed over the last 6 years. So it means that something goes wrong. And two powerful leaders like Putin and Trump, if they will find a common denominator about the Middle East, I wouldn't be surprised if we shall hear about Sykes-Trump and Putinico, I don't know how to call it, that they will try to form a new Middle East by making decisions, tough decisions, and two superpowers today, like Russia, like the United States, if they are determined, it might create new situation in the Middle East. We, Israel, we have to make sure that in those new arrangements, our interests are not going to be violated. And that's why it's very essential that in Washington, D.C., the leaders will understand, and mainly Trump will understand, that Israel is too small to play games with its borders. So you can do around the other countries, never mind if you miss here a kilometer, over there a kilometer. In Israel, you have to be a surgery of the pounds, you know. Otherwise, it's very risky for us. Thank you very much.